Da da da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. I was just going to say when I came in, hit that live button, Cindy. Sometimes, quite often, I have that sense of, well, it's not a sense, it's actually there on the surface, is that hesitation, you know. And I say to myself, oh my goodness, you're going to hit that live button. What's the topic of discussion today? Who's going to come in? Who's not going to come in? Is it going to impact somebody? Am I going to sound like a dingbat? And this is all going on, like all those thoughts, but all those thoughts on top of each other. And when I hear terminologies like anxiety and stuff, and I try to relate to that because I'm very big on being able to feel people out. And I do that for the most part by putting myself in other people's shoes. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for me. I am grateful. I have pretty good health. I've never suffered chronic aches and pains besides the odd Charlie horse, throughout my entire life. I've never had a headache. I've never been able to truly relate to somebody who suffers headaches or migraines. And again, I put myself in other people's shoes so that I can relate, so that I can get a feel for what people are going through. And it seems sometimes a little bit, I don't know, not disrespectful, I would hope not, but a little simple in the way that I have in putting myself in other people's shoes. Like in the idea of a headache, I'll think of, I put the wrong pair of shoes on. My shoes are too tight because I do understand that feeling and that frustration and that agony of having to put a full day shift in at work with a pair of shoes that are not comfortable. Like I said, that might seem a little bit simple. It might even seem disrespectful because I'm not getting a true feel of what a headache or a migraine feels. I know it can be uh, debilitating because, I have dated men who have suffered uh, chronic migraines. I've had friends and coworkers who suffered migraines. And that's only one example. There are lots of, right, common elements out there that people deal with on a daily basis. My mother was diagnosed at 30 years, and God knows how many years she suffered before that. But she had 12 different types of rheumatoid arthritis. By the time she was 40, her hands were locked tight. And they laid her off and put her on her disability. I think she was not too far into her 40s when they did that. Well, maybe in her late 40s. Now I'm thinking about it. Probably her late 40s when they laid her off and they pensioned her off. And she had a very good pension. She worked in hospitals all her life. But what does that money do for you if you can't enjoy your life because you're thinking about the pain, you're thinking about the struggles that you're in? And again, I have to put myself into some strange shoes in order to recognize somebody's discomfort. But then there are other aspects of my life that, right, I'll have it more down packed than you will because my experience in that was detrimental in how my life went, and probably in the end quite a big reason as to why I'm sitting here right now, because it is in overcoming those limitations that were set in place specifically so that you wouldn't show up, so that I wouldn't show up. And that's the truth. Right? When I came in today, hit that live button. And at the same time as I'm going live, as I'm hitting that button, right? I've got 100,000 things going on in my brain at the same time. Right? You hit that live button and it's showtime. And I'm not just saying showtime as in, right, let's put on a show. I'm saying it's showtime, right? Because when the show says it's going to start at 7 o'clock, that show is going to start at 7 o'clock. There's a good reason in my, what's my good cheer, that I don't set a specific time for when I'm going to show up. Because if I did that, I would have to show up at that time. Now, right, realistically, that's not always possible, right? People got jobs and lives and emergencies and hiccups to deal with. I get it, but we do the very best that we can to show up when we say we're going to show up. I do that for my show, Chatters Live, every Sunday. I'm usually in within 5 minutes. And it's hard for me because I am that person that's sitting there going, hit that like button, hit that like button, you can do it. Right? Being that cheerleader for myself, being that person that, has to give myself a little bit of a pep talk at times because I come in, should I say, unprepared? I don't know because I think for the most part I come in and I just come right in to whatever topic is surfacing. It's just like when I pull out my cards, my 54 powerful words. Right? When I go to pick the word, I don't know what word I'm going to pick, but it's the first perception, the first thought that comes into my mind, and then we go into that flow, right? And it is always worked out for me. And again, I have to be me. It sounds like a song, doesn't it? But it is. It's true, and I have to be myself. And I could sit here and I could apply myself, and I could be very specific, and I could go 1, 2, 3, and here are the solutions. And you know, that's not the person that I am. I would much rather come in and us just have a conversation. And a conversation could be anything. It could be an experience that I had that day. It could be an amazing set of content that I'm just coming out of. And it's just impacted me so much that I can't wait to get back into it already. For the most part, I think what's most important for me in this moment, and it's funny because it was part of a lesson that I came across today. What what is most important for me to do right now, right? And it's not like asking myself, Cindy, but I'm asking myself honestly, what would be the best thing for me to do right now? And for the most part, right, it's okay. Well, let me show you something interesting. Let me pull up this person here because he really has a great point just on that topic that you were talking about. And, it's 2 hours long, but, you got the time, Cindy, right? You're not at that job that puts the roof over your head, right? You play your cards right, Cindy. This is what's going to put the roof over your head. I talk to myself like that. Not necessarily out loud, but I right all day long. But it's in conversation and it's understanding that, you know, wherever I move and however I move, all parts of me are moving in that direction. And I sure would like to be on the same page in that. And it is in making sure that, Cindy isn't putting on a costume. She's not doing the dance and song and right? Maybe you might find this entertaining, but it's not necessarily my intent. It's my personality. That's Cindy in a nutshell. That's Cindy in her day to day. But there's so many parts of me that are out there, and I'm not just enjoying the landscape. I'm delving in to important questions that I've had my entire life, and recognizing that I'm asking these questions, and these questions drum up stuff that I'd never even recognized that was tripping me up my entire adult life. These things that I never considered could impact me so much that, for the most part, right, maybe I have been my own instigator, right? And I've been in those lessons, and I understand about self-sabotage, and I accept my part in playing into that. But I certainly did not truly understand to the extent that, I was my my worst enemy. And there's no blame in that, because, you know, I wasn't it's funny to say this, because ignorance is no excuse, at least not in this day and age with the digital age, right? But I have to give myself a little bit of slack in that, because I didn't even have a hint. I didn't even have a clue. And for anybody out there, right? Once you're treading the water, then right? There is no excuse for ignorance. It's like, where do I put my time in? It's to be able to have a better understanding as to what went wrong, what went right, and what can we do about that now, so it's not stuff that I'm going to be carrying on for the rest of my life, right? I'm 63 years old. I've got at least a 20 years in, well, I think, doing what I'm doing now before I actually truly slow down, right? Thinking, okay, Cindy, that's enough for one lifetime. You can carry on in the next. Just enjoy the landscapes, right? For a while, right? I am that busy, and it is in that programming sometimes that builds the personalities, that builds the personas, and it's not like it's a fake persona. It's not like it's not genuine. It's in my adapt and conquer and getting things done in a way that's comfortable for me, right? So again, I could do that checklist, and I could go 1, 2, 3, here's the solution. I could do that, but it wouldn't be me. And I don't think that, a lot of people that might have had some of those experiences that I had would sit well in a class like that. And that's the truth. So I do it like we're just kind of hanging out before bedtime, or before dinner, or before the end of your day sometime, whenever I choose to come in and do my live show. But you can trust that I will be here, because I am partnering with myself. I am in the creation of the best human being that I possibly could be, right? And in knowing that much, I can make a little bit of movement, not worrying about what's going on down the road, but still keeping my eye on that ball, understanding again, if I play those cards right, if I don't get distracted in those things that make me feel bad, make me feel like I can't do it, or make me feel like, oh my goodness, right? You got to put a roof over your head. Concentrate and prioritize in what's most important in this minute. And I'm listening to myself and I'm moving in directions that I suspect and I hope and I'm optimistic are in a good direction. And if I'm not moving in that direction that I expect, right, that I will be getting a real quick indication, right, to maybe do a little bit of backtracking, right? Maybe I only need a 45-degree turn. Maybe I need a 180 and to end up on the other side. Or maybe I need that 360 and I just need to start right over again. And I've done that many times, and that's come into the topic a few times this week in those pivots. I don't feel that need to pivot in what I'm doing, but also I feel that need that it should still grow, it should still move, and it should change a little bit, right? And that's always a good thing. Change is always a good thing, right? Maybe it doesn't need that pivot. Maybe it doesn't even need a 180 or a 45-degree turn. Maybe it just needs a good book and a cup of coffee. Maybe it needs a beautiful landscape. Maybe it needs a little vacation. Maybe it needs a good conversation. Maybe it needs a friend, right? But I understand that I'm just going to work with things that come across my path. If it's not come across my path, then I'm going to optimistically assume that we're going in the right direction. Okay, you guys. Let's just pull a card. We haven't pulled a card yet this week. Let's pull a card and it'll be the first impression, right? First thing that comes to my mind, and we'll just kind of move with that. Let me just get these notifications here. Close that. And everybody, I hope you're having an amazing day. For those of you who pop in tomorrow as you're moving along to work, as I got this set up as a podcast, right? Hope you get a little something out of it. It's not my intent to stir the pot in a way that makes us agitated, right? I'm a big believer in baby steps. I'm a big believer in mixing the mashed turnips in with the mashed potatoes. I am a big believer in, right, enjoying the landscape and whistle while you work. It's that optimism, right? That everything is going to be okay. And if everything is going to be okay, then shouldn't we be doing what we should be doing? And this is the way I feel about things. And I can beat myself up for what I'm not doing. But I think if I'm not doing what I'm doing right now, that's when I would need a little bit of a talking to. And I haven't failed myself yet in that, right? I haven't. Okay, you guys, let's grab a card. Hello, Hannah. Bye bye, dear. Oh my goodness. And what were we talking about? Right? Change is the process of adjustment to a new state. Maybe this is the signal. Well, maybe not, because I don't still feel that need to pivot. But we understand that change is consistent in our lives if we're doing it right, right? if we're comfortable, we've outgrown ourselves. We've outgrown the situation. We've outgrown our life. And again, we're going to have to mix it up a little bit. And whether or not it's that 45-degree angle, whether it's 180 turn, which puts us back to the absolute opposite to the state that we're at, or is it a 360? Right back where we started from. And that's viable too. I've done it. I've done it many times. I may at some point still take a shot of pivoting. And pivoting is pretty tough. It's fun because it's new, right? It's nervous. But at the same time, it's change. A pivot is change. And like I said, sometimes we just have to make those small adjustments. You feel out your surroundings, you feel out the conversation, the people, the situations that we're in, and decide, like, do you need to take your arm and just go and take all the pieces and throw them to the air? Or, right? Are you just going to shake the dice and let the dice decide where the next move is going to be? Or are you going to look at your partner and go, oh my goodness, I just landed on Melvin Gardens. I really can't afford this because I'm making some other moves, but I see the nervousness in this person's face. I'm taking Melvin Gardens Monopoly, right? And you make these moves, and they're like risks almost. And sometimes they pay off, and sometimes they don't. But even if they don't, there are lessons, and it will, right? It will, again, ignite change in the moment, because we're either going to scurry to correct the issue, to get back on track, or we are just going to stop and figure out how we can get back to where we started and make a different choice, right? Change is always going on in our life. And what it is here? Change is the process of adjustment to a new state. Seems like a daily process for me, right? Small adjustments though, right? Not those big ones. But again, if that big one was called for, I'd have to drum up that little bit of courage and bravery to listen to those parts of me who have, right, taken me along for the ride. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see you on Monday. If you want to pop in Sunday for Chatters Live, hang out with my crew. They're absolutely amazing. They chat more than I do, and yeah, they're waiting for some company. You guys, pop in, say hi, hang out with us. It's a good time. It really is a good time. Okay, you guys, have a great day.